When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject, Midas. User, RR55DEM0. Posted, February 18th, 1996.
I started at the welding yard outside Midas, New Mexico in the spring of '96. Midas ain't really a town, just a gravel cluster of mobile homes, one diner with a half-dead jukebox, and a yard where broken things got put back together for the oil fields and cattle folk. The kind of place you wind up when you've run out of second chances and need a job that doesn't ask about your past. I burned my way out of Tulsa, out of good jobs and bad relationships, and was trying to stay dry, though, truth be told, I still twitched when I walked past a bar with the neon humming. They called it just the yard. No need for anything fancier. It was all corrugated tin and dust, with machines that should have been scrapped years ago. Half the crew were old-timers, the other half guys like me, drifters, parolees, ghosts. You worked hard, kept your mouth shut, and you got your pay in cash on Fridays. That was enough. Had to be. The only guy who ever really talked to me was Denny. He'd been there since Reagan was shot, by his own telling. A 60-something, skin like saddle leather, teeth the color of old ivory, and a permanent squint that made him look like he was always sizing you up. He had a way of saying things that sounded like advice, but might have been warnings. We weren't friends, not exactly, but he had a kind of gravity, and I guess I orbited close enough for coffee and conversation on slow mornings. He used to bring these weird pickled sausages in a jar and eat 'em cold. Swore they kept him regular. One Friday, late in August, the boss rolled through the yard, pissed off about a last-minute job that needed welding done over the weekend. Something about tank repairs for a ranch out near Deming. Everyone else scattered like roaches, but me and Denny got tagged to stay late and knock it out. The sun was already low, throwing long orange streaks across the yard. The grinders had cooled, and the shop felt like a pressure cooker, quiet in the way that makes your ears ring. We were just about to finish patching a seam when the air compressor wheezed out and died. Denny stood over it for a second, kicked it, and wiped his hands on a rag that looked older than me. He told me the backup was in the old shed behind the yard, the one past the scrap piles where the weeds grew tall enough to hide snakes and old sins. I passed it a dozen times and never saw anyone open it. It had a rusted padlock on the door and a sagging roof, like it was leaning just a little too far into the ground. Something about it always felt crooked, like the air around it didn't move quite right. Still, I went. The key was buried under a pile of yellowing manuals in the break room drawer, and I grabbed my headlamp before stepping out. The light was fading fast, and the sky had gone that weird purple you only get in the desert when the sun's trying to die behind the horizon. When I got to the shed, I almost turned back. Couldn't tell you why exactly. Maybe it was the silence. It was absolute. No wind, no bugs, no machines humming in the distance, just stillness. The lock clicked open too easy, like it was waiting. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The smell hit first, something between scorched oil and wet iron, like a wound that had been cauterized but still festered underneath. It was pitch black past the door frame, and even with my headlamp, the shadows inside felt thick, like smoke that hadn't cleared. The beam should have lit the whole place, but the back wall just swallowed the light, like it was receding somehow, like it wasn't really there. I spotted the compressor in the corner, tucked under a stained tarp. I took a few steps in, but everything in me started to tighten, like I'd walked into a room that didn't want me. Then the sound started. Not something I heard with my ears, more like a vibration under my sternum. Not loud, just constant, deep, like an engine idling under the floor of the world. And there was something else, a thought that wasn't mine. Not a voice, not exactly, but it settled in the back of my head like a memory I didn't recognize, telling me to leave, to lock the door behind me, that if I didn't, I'd never leave that shed again. I didn't wait to find out what that meant. I stumbled back through the doorway, slammed the door, and shoved the lock into place with shaking hands. When I turned around, Denny was there, leaning against a rusted-out forklift, smoking and watching me like he knew exactly what I'd seen. He didn't say much, just asked if I'd gone inside. When I nodded, he nodded back real slow. Told me something similar had happened to him once, years back. Said he never stepped foot near the place again. Told the boss that the compressor was trash and not worth the effort. We fixed the tank with a workaround and left the yard without clocking out. Next Monday, Denny didn't show up. Tuesday came, and the boss sent a guy to check on him, and they found his truck halfway in a ditch off County Road 32. Door open, engine cold, headlights on. No sign of Denny. No footprints in the dirt. Just gone. Nobody talked about it much. The boss said he probably took off, started over. Happens out here more than you think. But I stayed, and the shed stayed locked. Still is, as far as I know, but sometimes when I'm working late and the wind dies down, I feel it again. That hum, that heavy silence pressing in, and I don't go near it. Not because I'm scared, because I think it remembers me, and whatever's in there, it don't want a friend.
Subject: what the voice told me. User: 0LM0PX. Posted October 9th, 1997.
I didn't mean for it to happen. God, I didn't. If I could claw the time back with my bare hands, if I could go back to that night and just not listen, just sit still and let the world crush me like it already was, I would. I swear to God I would. But I thought I was doing the right thing. For once, I thought finally maybe there was a path forward. Maybe I wasn't cursed. Maybe I wasn't just a tired woman working herself to the bone for two kids who barely looked me in the eye anymore, and a mountain of debt that laughed every time I paid the minimum. I didn't know. I didn't know it would cost me her. You gotta understand, I wasn't some delicate thing breaking down from one bad week. I was already ground down to the bone, already running on fumes. I was barely sleeping 3 hours on a good night, working the register graveyard shift at the gas station, then scrubbing toilets and bathtubs until my knuckles cracked. My back ached constantly. My feet were always bleeding through my socks. I'd sit in the car between jobs and scream into napkins I'd stolen from a drive-thru. That was my whole life. Every Thursday, I'd get a call from the school like it was scheduled. Your son's failing English. Your daughter got in another fight. We need to talk about behavior. And every time I'd take it, like a punch I forgot how to block, I'd hang up and just sit there, wondering if this was how people went mad, just quietly, one broken thing at a time. My husband, if you can call him that anymore, left without a goodbye, said he couldn't breathe anymore. Well, I couldn't breathe either, but I stayed. Someone had to. The voice started on a night like any other. I was driving the back roads home. My eyes hurt from staying open. My arms felt like someone else's. And then it wasn't even a voice at first, just something brushing the back of my neck, something that said, turn left. So I did. I don't know why. There was nothing down that road, just farmland and abandoned sheds, but I turned. Maybe I was too tired to argue. Maybe I didn't have the energy left to not believe. About a mile down, I saw it. Two deer frozen in the road, eyes like silver coins. I hit the brakes, skidded to a stop, just barely missed them. If I'd stayed on the main road, I would have hit them at full speed. The voice saved me. After that, I started listening. Don't go in that store. Call the electric company now. Go check your daughter's room. It wasn't constant, just every now and then. Always right, always helpful. Little nudges that made my life slightly less unbearable, like something was finally helping me out of the hole I'd been buried in. Bills started getting paid. I picked up more clients for cleaning. My daughter got into art class. My son stopped skipping, started coming home early. We had a few quiet dinners, awkward but peaceful. I even started sleeping a little. Then the voice said something different. Look under the steps. I was cleaning a house in Wilkins Creek. Big place, new clients. Never met them, just got a key under the mat and a list. Kitchen, living room, upstairs bath. But the voice said, look under the steps. So I did. Lifted the rug, opened the hatch. Down there in the crawl space inside a dented old ammo box was a wad of cash, thick rolls. I counted out $4,000. No names, no note, just dust and crickets and cash. I didn't ask questions. I needed it. I needed it so bad. The voice didn't say to return it. It didn't say anything at all. I used it to pay off the light bill and the rent and to get my daughter her first real sketchbook. It bought groceries that didn't come from the gas station and let us breathe for a week. One single week. And I didn't feel guilty. Not until later. The next voice came on a Friday. Go to the garage. That's all. So I went, and inside was my sister. She had just shown up, crying, desperate. Her husband got laid off. They were out of heat. She needed help. I can't go back to the shelter, she said. Not with the baby. I didn't hesitate. I made coffee. I cleared space. She was always the good one, the strong one. I owed her, so I let her stay. Then the voice whispered again. Tell her to take your shift. I paused. What? Your shift tonight at the station? She didn't want to. Said she wasn't good with people, but she agreed. One night, just one, so I could sleep. She never came home. The gas station was robbed. They shot her, left her in the walk-in cooler. Police said it was random, just bad timing, but it wasn't. It wasn't random. It was my shift. It was my place, and it was my voice. And now I sit here 3 days after her funeral, holding her baby in my arms. She smelled like her mother when I pulled her in close, that warm, tired skin, that faint mix of formula and lotion and not enough sleep. I sat there and just cried into her blanket. I did this. I said yes. I listened. I thought I was doing what I needed to do. I thought I was saving us. The voice still comes. It told me this morning to buy diapers, told me to call the lady from family services, told me to keep going, but now I wonder, whose voice is it? Where does it come from, and what does it really want? Because for a while, I thought it was saving me, but now I know. It just wants me to listen.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.